County Sheriff's Office. This call will be recorded and monitored. Your advance pay account balance is $55.37. For customer assistance, billing inquiries, or to block future calls, dial 1-877-650-4249. To hear the cost of this call, press 8 now. To accept this call, press 5 now. 1. This call is subject to monitoring and recording. Do not use three-way or call waiting features during this call. Thank you for using Global Tel-Link.
All right. Yes, sir, brother. You're ready to record something about the Wiki article?
Yes, we was hoping, and if you know, when we do an internet search on your name, sir, the number one is a terrible Wiki article. We know it's biased and full of lies and deceptions. Of course, number 2 is freakinhovind.com. We give God the praise for that, and we just would, if we could put an audio out with your response to, I think I mailed you that a few days ago, to the Wiki article. I think it would be a good thing just to have your opinion about it, not to spend too much time on it, of course. So.
Okay. I have it in front of me, what you mailed to me, and if you can show it on screen for your people, or they can, I suppose, listen in to my audio, and I'll just hit a few highlights of this thing. They're a waste of time, I can tell you right now. The Wiki article, for many, many years, the article about me way before I came to prison, was not one that anybody could edit. It was very interesting. You're supposed to be able to go on WICKED-pedia and change things, and, you know, it's everybody's encyclopedia until it comes to Kent Hovind. They try it. They have it blocked. Try to make some changes to it. It's been that way for many, many years. They don't want the truth told about me. Anyway, a couple of quick comments. First, I would look at the picture and say, gee whiz, there's only 10 billion pictures of me out there in the world. Why would they pick that one? You know, the one where I'm not smiling.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm always smiling. Let's put a more friendly picture of it. Under at the bottom of what I have is the first page. It says, conviction, November 2nd, that Kent Hovind, born January 15th, in that paragraph. It says, it's aimed to convince listeners to reject scientific theories of evolution. That is absolutely not true. That is a lie. As far as scientific theories, I think we should look at them. The problem is with this, and you got to define the word evolution, it's got 6 different meanings. I think microevolution certainly happens. Variations happen, and farmers would be wise to study that carefully to find out what kind of variety fits best for their climate, their temperature, water, etc., their soil, if they're raising plants. So I don't encourage anybody to reject scientific theories of evolution as far as the scientific part of it. As far as the religious part, which evolution is mostly a religion, yeah, that's just dumb. It's silly. They should reject that. And I don't mean geophysics. That's the physics of the geology of the world? No. I love that. I taught earth science for years. I think we should study that. I think we can study plate tectonics and plates moving, etc., like that, and sedimentation rates and salt increasing in the ocean. There are thousands of things about geophysics that are wonderful. The problem is they've mixed in quite a bit of their religion in that field also. Like saying each of the layers is a different age by millions of years. That is stupid and obviously not true. It's easy to demonstrate by the polystrata fossils, which I cover on my video series. So I do not encourage listeners to reject geophysics unless they get into the religious part involving evolution. And cosmology, if I understand cosmology, that's ology means study of, and cosmos is the universe. No, certainly we should study the universe. Study the stars. Man, I grew up with a telescope as a kid, had several of them. Loved it. Used to sit out and watch the moon and the stars, and we lived out in the country. And no, I do not encourage people to reject cosmology. I think it's wonderful. I do think everything in the Genesis creation narrative from the Bible is scientifically accurate, and everything we see in cosmology or geophysics or biology or any field of science blends perfectly with the Bible. Absolutely not a problem. Okay, skip down to the bottom of the second page under biography, second paragraph. It says he was pastor and taught at 3 private Baptist schools. Technically that should be 4. I started a school in Bethel Baptist Academy in Pekin, Illinois. Then I moved up to work at Faith Baptist Academy in Bourbonnais, Illinois, a suburb of Kankakee. Then I moved to work at Longview Baptist Temple and taught there in the school and the college. And then moved to California to work at Faith Baptist Church and Faith Baptist Academy, so they should change that to 4. On the next page, I guess it's actually right after biography, it says, 2003 alone, merchandise sales earned Hovind $1,657,329. That is just a plain lie. I did not take any income from the ministry. I lived in a church parsonage, drove a church van, but that is the total income for the entire ministry. There were 40 people working there, or I don't know how many. Plus, we had airplane tickets. I flew 200 times a year. It's all over the place. So this is that's like saying the total income for McDonald's or any company belongs to the owner. It's not true, and it's just flat stupid. I mean, anybody with half a brain can figure out the total income to any company or business or ministry is not belong to the pastor or the owner. Hello. What is the total income for your church? And they divide that up by utilities and everything else. You got to go there. Okay. Under education, go down to the paragraph where it starts off. Patriot Bible University is a diploma mill. Well, I disagree. That's a term they use to say, well, they just print diplomas and pass them out freely. I worked awfully hard for my degree. I don't know if others work for theirs or not. I'm sorry. Right above that, the line above that, Hovind. Let's see, Barbara Forrest, a professor of philosophy, expert on history of creationism and activist in the creation evolution controversy, wrote that Hovind's lack of academic training makes it impossible to engage him on a professional level. Well, Barbara, if you're willing to debate me if I have that lack of training, please make a fool of me. I'll come debate you and anybody else you want on your side, anytime, any place. Pick the spot. When I get out of here, I want half the time, and we talk about one topic at a time, and I will make a fool of all of you who believe you came from a rock. I'll do it very sweetly in Christian love, I promise you. So if you think I have a lack of academic training, please show the whole world how dumb I am. Watch some of the other debates first to see how they did, and you may want to change your mind about doing it. I don't know.
This call is from the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office.
Okay, then it calls Patriot University a diploma mill. That's a negative slur to say they just print out diplomas. And I was saying, I worked awfully hard for my degree. I don't know if others work hard for theirs or not. I would question anybody who comes out of a college program with a degree, whether it's a bachelor's, master's, doctorate, PhD, whatever. If they come out of an educational training program and still believe they came from a rock, they're the ones that need some help, not me. I worked hard for my degree.
Amen.
Okay, as far as the cost per credit, I think that's wonderful. I think they should, that's a great, Patriot Bible University, used to be just Patriot University, was a part of Baptist Church in Colorado Springs. Then they moved out to where they are now in the country. But they've been around from 1978, I think. Do a wonderful job. I encourage people to go there. You can learn a lot. Okay, in the next one, the next paragraph says, Karen Bartelt, a chemist. By the way, I debated Karen Bartelt. You should see that debate. I think I was going to say she made a fool of herself. She already was a fool. She revealed to the world that she was a fool. Stated Hovind's doctoral dissertation is evidence of poor requirements of Patriot, and Hovind lacks knowledge of basic science. Okay, Karen, let's have debate number 2 anytime you're ready. I will very sweetly show people that you are the one who lacks basic common sense and basic science knowledge. Dogs produce dogs, Karen. Always. No exceptions. Now, you can believe anything you'd like. As far as chemistry, since you are a chemist, I would like you to explain how you get from a Big Bang and hydrogen to all these other elements. Where did these 92 elements come from? I'd like a good explanation of that, the chemical evolution. At the end of that next long paragraph, it starts off in the past when questioned. Skip down near the end. It talks about the National Center for Science Education.
This call is from the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office.
And it talks about a guy in the next line named Skip Evans. Very interesting. Skip Evans came to Berkeley when I spoke there and stood in line and asked questions. Had a wonderful time with Skip Evans. Before, though, Paul Abramson of creationism.org got me to come to Berkeley. Nobody would debate, so I spoke in front of Berkeley. A very hostile crowd at Berkeley in California. Excuse me. And before, I went to the National Center for Science Education, which was a little storefront building in Berkeley. Now they got somebody to donate money, so they have a fancier building. Back then, it was just a little tiny storefront building. NCSE. We went in there, we're walking around looking at all the displays about how great evolution is and how dangerous creationism is and all this stuff. And I'm standing there looking at this stuff, and these 2 guys kept walking by, looking at me like a calf looking at a new gate, like, oh, I know that guy from somewhere. Finally, one of them walked up, and it was Skip Evans. He said, "Are you Kent Hovind?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, no, you're in our building." I said, "Hey, is that bad? Do I have a disease or something?" And later I heard that they taped a piece of paper to the floor and said, "Kent Hovind stood here." And they would walk around that spot and put their fingers together like a plus sign, like the hex stuff on you, like demonic or something. I don't know. Anyway, Skip and Karen and all you guys and Jeannie Scott. I debated Jeannie Scott one time on the radio, 30-minute debate. This pastor said, "Would you debate?" I said, "I'd love to." She spoke, I believe, for 27 minutes, and I spoke for 3 of the 30-minute program. So next time, Jeannie, let's make it fair. I was trying to be a gentleman and let you have, let you talk till you're done, but I want half the time, and we'll get a moderator who simply has a stopwatch and shut up when your time's up and let me have the other half of the time. But I'll take you all on at the same time. You can defend your rock as an ancestor, and I'll defend my God as the creator. Next paragraph says, according to Kent Hovind, he started creation science in 1991. Later, he said it was started in 1989. Well, here's the story behind that. 1989, January, moved to Pensacola, and within a few months, wrote a letter to the editor about creation evolution in the paper and started a firestorm in the Pensacola News Journal. I was working full-time at a cabinet shop and doing handyman work on the side and putting my wife and kids through school. I got a few invitations to speak, but it was just simply weekend meetings, and I was still working full-time. By 1991, I had quit and gone full-time into the ministry. So the ministry started part-time in 89 and full-time in 91, and both of those statements are true. Okay. It says, the organization does not have the proper licensing. Okay, now hold on just a minute. What proper licensing is required for a church ministry? Does the government decide what is and is not a church and who gets to have a church? That ought to raise some red flags. Do you need proper licensing? It's also like Nazi Germany. Your papers, please. Nor is it registered as a non-profit. That is correct. 501c3 is a non-profit organization started and sanctioned by the Internal Revenue Service. The churches don't have to do that, and they didn't for centuries, and they still don't in most countries, and even today there are many thousands of churches that do not register as a nonprofit. I would steer you to Craig Dixon for more information on that. He has, Rudy, you might have his contact info.
Yes, sir.
Put up a website or something, but he is much more of an expert on that. Okay, skip down several paragraphs. Let's see, 2. Try to keep this all straight. Under Dinosaur Adventureland, the picture of the entrance to the park there, middle of that paragraph talked about Skeptical Inquirer, a guy who visited Hovind's dinosaur theme park and concluded it was deceptive on many levels. Okay, I would like to hear more about that specifics, please. We certainly try to teach the truth. I think if anything is deceptive, it's the textbooks that still teach lies proven wrong 130 years ago. That's deceptive. And he talks about the southern, excuse me here, this is quote, footnote number 39 and 40. The Southern Poverty Law Center. You have got to be kidding. You need to contact, go to WICKED-pedia or go to some more reliable source, find out about this Southern Poverty Law Center and the guy Morris Dees and his divorce case with his wife for those things he was doing. Find out who this really is, this Southern Poverty Law Center, before you accuse me of anything. I don't care what they say. If they told me the sun was shining, I would still go look for myself. I wouldn't leave a word coming out of that place. Okay. And then the last line of that paragraph, they talked about, he summed it up in a word, shabby. The dinosaurs looked shabby. The displays were shabby. The attractions were shabby. All the ideas were shabby. This guy's he's got a problem. We had 100,000 visitors come through our Dinosaur Adventureland from 120 countries. Almost everybody except this guy, apparently. Absolutely loved it. Maybe you can get some folks who visited our Dinosaur Adventureland while it was open and let them comment about it being shabby or not. This was all in my backyard on less than 5 acres. And we had a blast. We saw hundreds of people get saved, lives changed. It was just, and I can't wait to open a giant one out in the country someplace.
Amen.
Camping, fishing, the whole thing. I mean, a real Dinosaur Adventureland. But this is just sour grapes is what this guy is. Everything was shabby. Well, I'll tell you what, why don't you find me a privately funded evolution museum, not one that steals tax dollars to pay.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Find me a privately funded museum or science center that teaches evolution and pushes it, and see how their visitors like it. I had one family come, and the dad wrote me or called me. He said, man, we spent 2 days at your place and 2 days at Disney. On the way home, the kid said, Dad, why did we waste 2 days at Disney? It was absolutely the most fun place in the world, Rudy, and we're going to have it open again. One of these days, I'm trying. Okay, let me call back and finish this up.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Kent Hovind.
An inmate at the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office. This call will be recorded and monitored. Your advance pay account balance is $51.29. For customer assistance, billing inquiries, or to block future calls, dial 1-877-650-4249. To hear the cost of this call, press 8 now. To accept this call, press 5 now. This call is subject to monitoring and recording. Do not use three-way or call waiting features during this call. Thank you for using Global Townlink.
All right, brother, to continue the expose here of the WICKED-pedia article on me, we're not, if they're looking for quote numbers, this is, they have little quotes, parentheses at the end. Number 41 talks about it being shabby, and I would, I was going to say I disagree. But I got to point out, it is privately funded, privately owned. It is not government funded, and we can't reach into your pockets to make things, but I think things were really, really cool. And everybody else did too. They loved it. Okay, next paragraph that starts off with the words, the venture has encountered. About 6 or 7 lines down, it says, the property was deeded to Stoll and Eric prior to Hovind's conviction. That is an outright lie. Nothing was ever deeded to Stoll or to Eric. Okay? Change that one, please. You're lying or you're misinformed. Glenn Stoll, for many years, for several decades, has created perfectly lawful, legitimate trusts. They have never, Glenn Stoll's trusts have never been proven to be unlawful. There have been several times where judges have said, don't you create unlawful trusts. Okay, well, that's like telling me, yeah, don't you jump to the moon. Okay, well, I didn't, I don't, I won't, I promise. So you need to get a hold of Glenn Stoll. Let him defend himself on this one, remedies@law.com. But nothing was ever deeded to Glenn Stoll or Eric, my son. Eric had purchased one property to build his house on. He wanted to live near his dad. Do your kids want to live near you, by the way? Anyway, and so Eric bought a piece of property and built his house, and everything was fine. And so I don't understand the problem there, but change that one. And then it said, in July 2009, the courts ruled that the properties could be seized and sold to satisfy Hovind's federal tax debts. This is exactly the problem what this case is all about. First, the court ruled you owe this money that was structured. That was wrong. That's a mistake. That's not common sense, okay? And I think there's stuff in court, not in court, in Congress now about that. Hey, you can't seize these structured funds. Why on earth? First of all, the structuring law is stupid. I mean, stupid. It needs to be changed. Just drop that stupid law. Secondly, if somebody does structure their funds to avoid a reporting requirement, why should that money be forfeited to the government? Why not forfeit it to Disneyland or forfeit it to Castro?
Amen.
Why should the U.S. government get any structured funds? Thirdly, the judge just simply made a ruling that property is Kent Hovind's. Without a trial, without a hearing, the jury never found that. The judge simply made an arbitrary ruling that property that's deeded to the trust, ministry trust, is Kent Hovind's. Purposely, so they could seize it. That's one of the many problems with this case. Okay? And so he says federal tax debts. That is also not correct. The purpose of this was to satisfy the structuring, which was retarded on its face. Okay, next paragraph that starts off, let's see, under earnings and assets. According to the Internal Revenue Service, Hovind earned $50,000 a year through speaking engagements. I have no clue where they got that number from. Everything I got went straight to the ministry. Churches would make out a check to the ministry, not to me. I'm dependent on the ministry. You can talk to Glenn Stoll about all that. And nothing came to Kent Hovind. I didn't earn a penny. I took a vow of poverty. I didn't own a pair of socks. Everything belonged to the church, and everything went to the church ministry. They provided me a car to drive and a house to live in, like the Catholic Church does to their priest. Perfectly fine, legitimate. It's not the IRS's business. what the church does. They should stay out of it. And then it says CSC sold more than $1.8 million in merchandise. I don't know if that's true or not. I had nothing to do with any of that. But for a ministry with, say, 40 people working there, $1.8 million is not a lot of money with a ministry outreach like that when you're spending, $300,000 a year on tickets and transportation and how much on utilities and phone and internet, and you got to buy the material before you can sell it. If your gross is $1.8 million and you have, say, a 30% markup or 40% markup even, well, that's only, say, $600,000 or $700,000 then is the profit. So this is misleading. That's like saying any kind of business, you can take the gross income for the business. We have to deduct all kinds of things to get the earnings. So this is deceptive at its best.
Amen.
And then a couple lines later it says Hovind made deposits well in excess of $1 million a year. First of all, I didn't deposit anything or withdraw anything. I had no control over the bank account. None. I didn't then, I don't now. And if it was $1 million a year, I don't know. I wish it was $10 million a year. I think we use everything we could for the Lord's ministry, for the Lord's work. Maybe it'll grow to $10 million a year. I don't know. I hope it grows. I want to do everything. Everything belongs to the Lord. He said eventually that grew to $2 million a year. Good, wonderful. I didn't keep track of that. No, my wife or the secretary did. I had nothing to do with it. It said about half that income went to employees. Well, the first part's true. At least half of it did go to the people who worked there, but nobody was an employee. If you read my 2005 affidavit to the grand jury and to Michelle Helderman,
This call is from the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office.
I explained in there some of the words, according to the government's own documents, exactly what is income, exactly what is employee. You read my 2005 affidavit, right from their code. See, they trick you. They use these words, like at the trial. The public prosecutor, Eagers, she said, where's your residence? Well, I have learned that residence is a trick word that they trap you with.
Yep.
What do you mean resident? They use the same words that in common language would mean one thing, and the average person thinks that's what they mean. But when you get into legal stuff, you got to watch every single word. Like Bill Clinton, what do you mean is?
That's right.
He argued for how long about the word is, okay? Because he knows, as a slick lawyer, they can trick you with these slick words. So nobody was an employee. Change that, please, in your WICKED-pedia article. Who were salaried or paid hourly, Hovind derived substantial revenue. Who is making that claim? I lived in a church ministry parsonage with 10 offices in my house. Never had privacy. Do you know anybody else who would you want 10 offices in your house and how many phones and gee whiz, everything in it? And it says that appeared to income to him personally. Well, I'm sorry, you are simply lying or mistaken. Please remove that. I don't think, ask anybody who knows me, who really knows me, ask my children, ask my wife if I am greedy or money hungry or in this for the money. Ask anybody who really honestly knows me.
Amen.
They will say I'm one of the most generous, selfless men they've ever met. Okay. Then it says, prior to his prison term, Kent Hovind also owned at least 10 properties, including Dinosaur Adventureland. Okay. Whoever's running WICKED-pedia, this is a lie. Okay. I never owned a thing. A couple of the properties were in my name for either because before we started the ministry, or the people would only sell to an individual, and then right away they were put into the trust. You could talk to Glenn Stoll and get all that straight, but there was never a problem. We just simply used my name on a couple of them for convenience to say, but Kent Hovind doesn't own anything, he can't own anything, but he's still a live, breathing individual, so put his name on here and then it'll go. But I never owned Dinosaur Adventureland. It belongs to the Lord. Okay, at the end, the last line of that, the contempt of court for the false filings. Well, that's what we're in court now for. I don't think anything was false, and I think the record will show that when we're done. If we lose this round, we go to appeal. If we lose the appeal, we go to Supreme Court. If we lose that, we will fight this until hell freezes over. There is no crime here. Okay. So they are not false filings. Somebody may think they are, they may hope they are. And some court may find that they are. I mean, hello, they found the Jews should be executed in Germany. It's just because a court finds something does not mean it's true. Okay, under young earth creationism, I guess I'd have to plead guilty to most of that. I do believe the Bible is literally true. I kind of object to the words young earth. I mean, 6,000 years is a long time. It's hard to remember 200 years ago, you know, when they were buying the Louisiana Purchase. 6,000 is a...
This call is from the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office.
I don't think it would do any good to argue that point with them. Okay. Let's see. On the next, skip down several paragraphs. I just got a few notes here. This one starts off, and I don't know if these pages aren't numbered, starts off, the level of support for evolution is essentially universal within the scientific community. Little short paragraph. Well, he may be correct on that. You know, there was universal support among the scientific community for a flat Earth at one time, too, and for the doctrine of humors, and for the phlogiston theory. And take a look at the history of science and all the dumb things they've supported over the generations. And it may be that a lot of people believe evolution, but again, you got to define that word. If you mean microevolution, I think you'll find universal support among Christians and creationists and me for microevolution. So let's clearly define what you mean. If you mean cosmic evolution, macroevolution, chemical evolution, I don't think you'll find universal support within the scientific community for all of those. Okay, but even if it is universal support, it doesn't prove it's true. Anybody, History of Science 101, you'll see there's a long list of things they've taught that are just simply not true. And then it says, about the Hovind theory in particular, Karen Bartelt, a chemist. There we go. That's another one. I debated her once. I don't think she'll do it again. But if she would, I will be honored. Half my brain, 3/4 of my brain in this case, tied behind my back. Okay, a couple of paragraphs later, under criticism from creationists, there's a paragraph starting off, the USA arm of AIG, led by Ken Ham. Skip down to 10 lines. I'm sorry. It talks about claims made by Ron Wyatt. Criticized Hovind for using fraudulent claims made by Ron Wyatt. I would sure like to know what those fraudulent claims are. I knew Ron pretty well. I know Richard Reeves took over for him. I would encourage you to call them and ask them. WyattMuseum.com. Be specific. What fraudulent claims are you talking about here? This WICKED-pedia article, if they're going to pick on me, they need to be specific. Don't just say you're ugly. Let's just, what's ugly? My hair, my teeth, my what, be specific. What claims did Ron make that are fraudulent that I repeated? I clearly point out Ron showed evidence of the finding of Noah's Ark, of the Ark of the Covenant. I think you need to go to WyattMuseum and .com and take up your gripes with them. Okay, next paragraph, creation astronomer Hugh Ross. I disagree. He's not a creationist. He's an evolutionist. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing. Okay, I'll debate him again anytime he works up the courage. Okay? Reasons to believe what? It's not reasons to believe the Bible. It's not reasons to believe God's Word. Reasons to believe Hugh Ross, maybe. I did debate him on the John Ankerberg show, and it was really 2 against 1. John turned against me on that one. I was kind of surprised. But I'll be glad to go on again anytime if I get half the time. Let's see. Hugh Ross told Hovind, this is quote number 81 here, astronomers view the credibility of the young Earth as being much weaker than that for a flat Earth. Now that is correct. Hugh Ross did tell me that, and Hugh Ross is wrong. Okay? You can tell him I said so sweetly in Christian love. And he is leading people away from God's Word, not toward it. And most of his staff is Catholic, which is not necessarily good or bad. Just a point to point out, they are not in the creationist community, in my humble opinion. Okay, next paragraph. Hovind has stated that carbon dating, a method used by scientists to estimate age of rocks, is unreliable. That is correct. Guilty. I did indeed state that. I still believe that, and I think you'll find most other people are saying that to be true also. He has been criticized by Greg Naiman of Answers in Creation, an older creationist group, who says that Hovind's statements, Hovind goes on to show that he knows absolutely nothing about the science of carbon dating. Okay, I have no idea who Greg is or who this Answers in Creation group is or where they are. I've never heard of them. However, I think I know a lot about carbon dating and would be glad. I think if you'd watch my video number 7, I explain it pretty carefully. And if you'd like to debate me on the topic, bring it on. Send in specific questions. Tell me, why do they have to cross-reference carbon dates to find other methods to check them, like geologic positioning or bracketing with fossils? Or if it's carbon dating is accurate, everyone ought to be spot on. They're not. And why do they get different dates from different parts of the same sample? How do you know any of them are accurate if some of them are not accurate? And I show plenty of examples on video 7. Okay, next paragraph. Criticism from non-creationists. Michael Shermer. Boy, I've debated him 3 times. That is so fun. He's a really nice guy on a personal level. And I think I tore him up really badly. Sorry, my wife will get after me for that. And I'll debate him again anytime. Please send him on, Michael. You bring anybody you want. Let's talk. Let's have another debate on the topic. You can have all the assistance you want, but I get half the time. Okay, about 6 lines later, I'm just starting at the front here.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
While receiving positive responses from creationist observers, Shermer concluded, unless there is a subject that is truly debatable, with a format that is fair in a form that is balanced, it only serves to belittle both the magisterium of science and the magisterium of religion. Okay, Michael, let me be very clear. Your belief in evolution is the religion. That's the religion. Evolution is a religion, plain and simple. It's something you have to believe in. It is not part of science. And you're welcome to believe it if you want, but quit calling it science. Let me continue with this paragraph when I call back, brother.
Yes, sir.
Kent Hovind.
An inmate at the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office. This call will be recorded and monitored. Your advance pay account balance is $47.22. For customer assistance, billing inquiries, or to block future calls, dial 1-877-650-4249. To hear the cost of this call, press 8 now. To accept this call, press 5 now. This call is subject to monitoring and recording. Do not use three-way or call waiting features during this call. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
All right, brother, I'm in the Wikipedia article, paragraph titled Criticism from Non-Creationists, about halfway down the first paragraph. Michael Shermer. Bring it on, Michael, anytime. Just let me know when you get brave enough. And then he says, others, like evolutionary biologist Massimo Pigliucci, boy, have debated Hovind. Man, was that a fun debate, too. It's on video. Look at it for yourself. I forget which one it is. He teaches at UT Knoxville, University of Tennessee. It says, they have expressed surprise at Hovind's ignorance of evolutionary theory. No, Massimo, you were not surprised at the ignorance of evolutionary theory that I had. You were surprised that I could make it so clear and so simple that the fourth graders understood how stupid your religion is. I'm the little boy crying, the king hath no clothes. Your theory is dumb, it's silly, it's stupid, it's a religion. Not even part of science, and I exposed it very clearly. Let me continue here. Pigliucci indicated surprise at hearing Hovind try to convince the audience that evolutionists believe humans came from rocks. Well, Massimo, that is exactly what you believe. Be honest about it.
Amen.
Get a rock, put it on your desk, and put a little sign on it, great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandpa, and be proud of your heritage, for heaven's sake. Put a picture of a rock up on your office wall, and as one of your answers. That is exactly what I'll show you from your textbooks that is indeed what you teach. Now, you may not like it put quite so simply, and the stupidity of it exposed so clearly, but that's it. Let's see, he says, Hovind's assertion that biologists believe humans evolved from bananas. Now, I may have actually said that. If so, I'm sorry. Humans and bananas evolved from a common ancestor. Would that be more palatable? That is exactly what they believe. All life forms came from a common ancestor, which ultimately was a rock, which came from the Big Bang, which came from nothing. And if that's not stupid, I don't know what is. Okay. Then he goes on 2 lines later. It says, science is based on ideas that are testable. I agree. Wonderful. Let's test this evolution theory. Every farmer on planet Earth in the history of humanity has tested and demonstrated clearly that evolution does not happen. Period. It has been long disproved. Give it up. It's a dumb idea. It's not true. Very simply and sweetly. So they should give it up. Okay. Skip down a couple paragraphs to the one that says critics charge that Kent Hovind's presentations on creation. Again, they quote the Southern Poverty Law Center. Morris Dees, I think it's D like David, D-E-E-S, I believe is the spelling of his name. Do some research on that guy before you believe anything he says. Okay. Then it says the Southern Poverty Law Center, next paragraph, SPLC, criticized Hovind for pointing his followers to the Citizens Rule Book. Rudy, the Citizens Rule Book is a little booklet that fits in your shirt pocket.
I've got it.
It's a copy of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, I love the Citizens Rule Book.
Morris Dees is criticizing criticizing me for telling people to read the Constitution and to learn about their rights as a juror for jury nullification? Is that because he's a communist or something? I don't know what he is politically, but certainly the communists hate the Citizens Rule Book. He talks about tax protester Irwin Schiff. I've never met Irwin Schiff. He wrote some great books and did some great research on the IRS, and I think they need to be read and researched. I think there's some serious things that need to be talked about with this IRS. Who are they? What's their job? What's their jurisdiction? But I don't know Irwin Schiff. The fact that he went to jail is probably correct. A lot of people go to jail in different countries for various things, and it doesn't mean they're wrong on anything. Next paragraph. While Kent's in prison, Eric continued operating CSE and received criticism for errors in his claims. Biologist P.Z. Myers criticized Eric and Jonathan Sampson. You should read my debate I did with P.Z. Myers last year. It's in a booklet that's on drdino.com, I believe, or on 2peter3.com, called Whose Mouths Must Be Stopped. Just read it, or watch the videos by Ray Comfort, or Ben Stein, where he interviews P.Z. Myers. I wouldn't believe P.Z. Myers if he told me a duck can quack. I would want to go check it out for myself. Okay. He said, we do not have explanations of cephalopod evolution, and they lack the intelligence to grasp it. Well, P.Z., why don't you debate my son? He's only 36 years old? I believe he can handle you just fine. He'll do a wonderful job. I'm proud of that boy. Okay. Next, several paragraphs later, starts off, critics view this offer to be spurious. This is talking about my $250,000 offer. To read down the third line, also, unlike Hovind, scientists in the field of evolutionary biology, boy, that's a mix.
This call is from the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office.
Biology is the study of life. Evolutionary biology, those two words should not go together. Evolution is a religion. Biology is a science. Please don't put those two together, okay? Separate. Do not distinguish between micro and macro evolution. Well, they should. Are you saying we now have 450 varieties of dogs recognized by the American Kennel Association is what I heard, okay? Are you saying the fact that we see microevolution or variation within the dog, that is not to be distinguished from dogs and bananas? Or dogs and coyotes, or dogs and elephants. Of course there's a difference. Macroevolution is a change to a different kind that is never observed. And I know you would love to blur that distinction. Well, I'm sorry, there is a clear distinction there. Microevolution, variation within the kind, certainly happens. Macroevolution never happens. You can believe it all you want, but don't call it science. And the next says, instead of contending that evolution takes place as microevolution and that macroevolution is cumulative microevolution, quote 99. Yep, mark it down. Kent Hovind believes that is a bold-faced lie. Macroevolution is not a cumulative microevolution. Macroevolution is a religion that people believe in. There is no evidence for it whatsoever. Doesn't happen. Never has happened, can't happen, there are genetic barriers, so don't say that microevolution leads to macro. You're either lying or stupid. Not true. 2 paragraphs later, Hovind said a panel of judges, skip down about 10 lines, it says, any evidence that does support evolution, please send it to me. Yes, I'd still like to see it. Nobody ever does. The respondent felt that this indicated dishonesty on Hovind's part. Well, I'm sorry he felt that way. I think a lot of people who teach evolution are dishonest also, okay? But I'm not trying to be dishonest. I've always tried to be fair. If you have evidence, show me what you've got. Nobody has ever shown where any animal can produce a different kind of animal or plant. End of story. Okay, I have next here, I'm not sure if my page numbers are... there's no page number. This paragraph starts off, it ends up, the last line of this paragraph says, the spring 2006 issue of Skeptic contained criticisms of Kisby's proposed proof. I don't know what that's about. I have to send it to me again. The next little short paragraph says, Hovind has repeatedly declined written debates where his claims would be scrutinized by scientists, for example, when offered by Dave Thomas. Well, I don't know who Dave Thomas is, but I know I was traveling 200 and some days a year, flying all over the place, teaching on creation, speaking up to 900 times a year. I was very busy, actually. Very busy, in addition trying to be dad and grandpa and husband and having a blast at Dinosaur Adventureland as visitors came through. So, yes, correct. I don't have time for written debate. We're only two people are reading it anyway. But I'll do a public debate anytime in front of any university. I've done it at many universities. I'll do it again. And I get half the time, and we talk about one topic at a time. So yes, correct. I do not have time or interest in written debates where nobody is listening. I have other things to do. I'm busy. I suggest you read the book of Nehemiah, where they offered to get Nehemiah to quit building that wall and come down and talk to us in a city called Ono. Very interesting name. Oh, no. So, Dave, correct. I will not waste my time debating you publicly in a written debate because nobody's going to be reading it, but I will take you on at any university of your choice. Okay, next under controversial remarks, politics, and conspiracies. First paragraph, the last line, talks about the implementation of the New World Order's World Domination Plan was May 5th, 2000. All I did was read an article where somebody else made that claim. I never said anything was going to happen May 5th of the year 2000. I said, this is what these folks say, and I quote it. I use PowerPoint, for heaven's sake, and everything's documented. Look it up. Nope, I didn't make that quote. Then the next paragraph, about 10 lines in, says, Hovind recommends books by conspiracy theorists. I recommend books by lots of people. I recommend books by evolutionists and atheists, for heaven's sake. You can sometimes find a little good meat if you dig around long enough. You have to dig through a lot of dirt to get a diamond once in a while. Anyway, in that same very, very long paragraph, text on the next page starts off in my copy with the word order and communism while he promotes tax protesting. Okay, first of all, whoever did the wiki article here, I do not promote tax protesting. However, I would like to point out that our country was founded by a bunch of guys who did. They threw the tea in the harbor and started a big war. There's nothing wrong with tax protesting, okay? I am not one. I don't have time or interest in being one. I have always tried to obey any tax laws that apply to me. There are hundreds, if not maybe thousands of taxes. I pay every one that I owe. There's a tax on those who manufacture alcohol. I don't pay that tax because I don't manufacture alcohol. It's real simple. Please show me what tax I owe and I'll pay it. I pay sales tax when I buy. I pay lots of taxes. I've never been a tax protester and not ever going to be one to my knowledge. Okay, next paragraph that starts off, as part of his one world government conspiracy theory, Hovind claims, and it goes on here, talks about 8 lines down, that the Great Pyramid could have been built by Adam's relatives. Okay, well, I would say, duh, D-U-H. We are all Adam's relatives. Yes, I think the Great Pyramid, I think the Sears Tower, I think the city of Chicago, I think the city of Pensacola, in fact, I think every building on planet Earth was built by Adam's relatives. And you can quote me on that one, okay? Next, he says he claims that the United States government is secretly plotting to implant an electronic ID microchip in the body of every U.S. citizen, which is the mark of the beast. I think if you'd watch my video number 7 carefully, you would see I say this is probably the plan. I'm very cautious with my words there. And yes, I will go on record as saying I think there are probably many who would love to have a one-world government with everybody implanted with a biochip of some kind. I think you need to get up to speed on the news of what's happening on that field right there. Last, it says the aim, he claims, is to put a chip into every major into each of the major muscles and network them together so that a paralyzed person would be able to get some movement from their muscles. So that there is an going to be a system where you cannot buy or sell. This sentence makes no sense. The WICKED-pedia article, guys, you should take that out. First of all, the idea of putting microchips into the muscles of paralyzed people is an old idea and has been around for 20 years, I think. Yes, the people who want to do that, they think possibly we can do that, and that's what the whole starting of the microsizing the chips was about. Contact the guy who did it. He was in Mountain Home, Arkansas, and his crew is the one that microsized and made the little chip that they now put in pets and dogs and horses and everything else. Microchip technology's been on for decades.
This call is from the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office.
And I do believe there will be a system, according to Revelation chapter 13, where you cannot buy or sell without a mark. Now, whether it's the chip or not, I don't know. Probably so. Next paragraph says, stated in opposition to democracy. Oh, now listen, let me explain it real carefully so you can get it. Democracy, pure democracy, is a dangerous and evil form of government. In a pure democracy, 51% can vote to kill the 49%. That's a pure democracy. You need to check the definitions of the terms. The founders of our country were scared stiff of a democracy, and they said we want a constitutional republic. No, I'm not a Republican, and I'm not a Democrat. Okay, I am Kent Hovind. But democracies are dangerous. A pure democracy is a dangerous form of government. And as they said here, it's a terrible form of government. I agree. They always degenerate into dictatorships. I will claim that quote. Yep, I am guilty of believing that. Okay. But I think you need to define what you mean by pure democracy. Okay, I think I'm done with that. Let me go on to the next page. This one is a heading.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Federal Civil Tax Matters, Bankruptcy, and Renouncing Citizenship. CSE was not listed as a tax-exempt organization by the Internal Revenue Service. Well, duh, of course not. You don't have to be. Nobody has to be. You can if you'd like. And no, we did not register as a tax-exempt. That was started in the 1950s by Lyndon Johnson and is not required for any church ministry to do. Considered a church, it was considered a church and still is, and you can talk to Glenn Stoll about all that. And so he's the one to answer. Okay. Let me call back and finish this up, brother.
Yes, sir.
Out of here.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Call from
Kent Hovind.
an inmate at the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office. This call will be recorded and monitored. Your advance pay account balance is $43.14. For customer assistance, billing inquiries, or to block future calls, dial 1-877-650-4249. To hear the cost of this call, press 8 now. To accept this call, press 5 now. This call is subject to monitoring and recording. Do not use three-way or call waiting features during this call. Thank you for using Global Link.
All right, brother, sorry these pages are not numbered and I may not have them in correct sequence, but I'm dealing with a paragraph now that starts off, Hovind tells his audiences, evolution is the foundation for communism, Nazism, socialism, etc., okay? And he maintains that biology textbooks are lying and that he considers evolution to be a religion. I agree. That is exactly correct. Evolution, that is the first 5 meanings of the word, in my clear definition on my videotapes, is a religion you have to believe in. And supported by false evidence, yep, I will exactly correct. WICKED-pedia, thank you. You quoted me correctly. I do believe evolution has a bunch of lies that they use as supposed evidence to back it up, and they should stop. True lines down. He has claimed that everything is a religion, including mathematics. I don't know if that's quoted correctly. In other words, what do you believe? Do you believe 2 + 2 is 4? I suppose in one sense, religion meaning something you believe. I guess you could, I think that's taking that out of context from what I mean. There are all kinds of things we believe. Many things have been demonstrated, I think, beyond reasonable doubt. 2 + 2 is 4. There's all kinds of things that we would consider established science that I certainly believe in. Evolution above the micro level is not one of them. It says, Hovind disregards all fossil evidence. That is absolutely not true. I love fossils, have a huge collection of them. I think the fossils clearly demonstrate creation and a flood. They do not demonstrate any evidence for evolution. And he says, saying, no fossils can count as evidence for evolution. I agree. When you find a fossil, all you know is it died. You don't know that it had any children. Whoever wrote this article, would you please tell me, if you find bones in the dirt, how do you know that animal that you found had any children at all? Please tell me how you could possibly, children that survived. Tell me how you know. I'd like to hear about that. And he says, 2 lines down, in regard to different races, Hovind believes the best explanation of the origin of races is all families, countries, nations, tongues, created, developed from the Tower of Babel. First of all, there aren't different races. There is one race called the human race. There are different skin colors, and yes, I believe they started from the Tower of Babel. That is correct. But not different races, different skin colors, ethnic divisions. In 2000, he alleged global warming is a communist conspiracy. I think you need to listen to the whole section of that. It's been about 15 years ago. But yes, I think there are those who are like Al Gore, who want to use global warming scare to get people to give up their rights and be very cautious of this, herd people into the pen real quick with different scare tactics. That's communists have always done that. Okay, under YouTube copyright controversy. Says, so CSC's website said none of the materials are copyrighted, and later Eric copyrighted them. That is correct, because people who like this one they talk about in here were taking clips here and there, making me say things I did not say, put a sentence here, sentence there, word here, word there. And so finally we changed it and said, okay, everything is copyrighted. However, you're willing to copy it you're welcome to copy it if it is unaltered and for free distribution only. Don't sell it. We worked hard to produce it. We ought to get the income from it. And I can't use the word income because that's got a trick word too. But anyway, it belongs to CSE. Don't sell it and don't change it. But if you want to make copies for your friends, please do. That's the only reason, the only minor change in our copyright policy, precisely because of morons who were twisting things that they shouldn't twist. Under legal problems, let's see. I did that already, legal problems, I guess. I did all that. Again, my pages are not necessarily. I'm on another page. It starts off, Hovind was originally reported to the IRS by Pensacola Christian College Senior Vice President Rebecca Horton in the mid-1990s. I believe that is true. I think it is sad. I think it's true, though. Let me call you back, brother. This lady's here to make some copies for me.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'll call back. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right.
An inmate at the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office. This call will be recorded and monitored. Your advance pay account balance is $41.78. For customer assistance, billing inquiries, or to block future calls, dial 1-877-650-4249. To hear the cost of this call, press 8 now. To accept this call, press 5 now. This call is subject to monitoring and recording. Do not use three-way or call waiting features during this call. Thank you for using Global Tel-Link.
All right, thank you, brother. Back to the WICKED-pedia article here. I'm in the paragraph about the Hovind bankruptcy decision. It just says in 96, Hovind filed a Chapter 13 bankruptcy petition to avoid paying federal income taxes. That is not correct. That is not why I filed the petition. I think you can read it all for yourself and be clear. And the court dismissed the bankruptcy case is the last line. That's correct. The court dismisses lots of cases. I was never found guilty of anything in that. This whole paragraph is unnecessary. Why do you have that in there? You can do whatever you like, obviously. Okay, next one. Kent Hovind 2005 affidavit. Natural citizen, the judges and IRS did not appear to honor this is the last line. I don't know what he means by that. But I think if you read my 2005 affidavit, which, by the way, this paragraph doesn't talk about at all, you'll find it's very clear. I, under penalty of perjury, swore the following things in that affidavit, and I have never had an answer to any of the things I brought up in there, not a single one. Next paragraph says Kent Hovind versus Scott Schneider. In 2004, IRS agents raided Hovind's home and business to confiscate financial records. Be careful of that word business, by the way. That church ministry is not considered a business in the legal definition. I said Hovind's businesses, okay, they weren't businesses, there's the problem, had neither business licenses, that's correct, you don't need one when you're a church ministry, nor tax exempt status, that's correct, the church does not have to have that. There's a difference between tax exempt and tax exception. I think you need to read my 2005 affidavit. Let's see, nothing else to comment on there. Let's see. Again, the next paragraph, he calls it Hovind's property. There's the problem. It's not my property, but we're working on that. Okay, down 3 paragraphs later, United States of America v. Kent Hovind and Joe Hovind, after being indicted, let's skip down about 8 lines. It says, at first he attempted to enter a plea of subornation of false muster, but then entered a plea of not guilty under duress when the judge offered to enter a plea for him. That is not correct. The judge did enter the plea of not guilty for me. I pled subornation of false muster when he said, it wasn't a judge either, it's a magistrate. He said, I'm going to enter a plea of not guilty. I said, I object. He said, I'm entering it anyway, or overruled, and I said, I forget what the next phrase is. I object, I take exception, I think is what somebody told me to say. So no, I think subornation of false muster is still probably proper. That means, say, somebody's trying to claim I'm in the military and put me in a military court and I'm not in the military. But that's something for somebody else to handle. I don't understand all that. Okay, I'm reading the end of another paragraph. The last line talks about, during an IRS raid at the home, agents found and seized numerous cash stashes totaling $42,000. Well, first place, there were two. One, my wife's private savings in her bedroom, in her dresser next to her bed, which they have no business going in. That's her stuff. Secondly, was in the church ministry safe. And it is correct, they did seize that money, and they said it was for evidence of a crime, and later turned it over for a civil tax bill they made up to the exact penny. That issue still needs to be resolved. I think it is stolen funds and needs to be a lawsuit about that, and Congress needs to investigate. And they need to call Scott Schneider and say, did you take this money? What did you do with it? What gave you authority to do that? Did you follow the laws? And I think we'll find that no, he did not. Okay. 8 lines later, however, continued, Kent Hovind is a tax protester, makes a substantial amount of money. Okay, where's this article quoting here? I am not a tax protester. I do not make any money. Everything belongs to the ministry. We have a small creation ministry in Pensacola, and I think we do a worldwide job on a shoestring budget, and it's none of their business.
This call is from the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office.
Let's see. The end of the paragraph that starts off on October 21st, 06, the last line says, during the trial, the judge admonished Hovind's attorney for wasting time asking irrelevant questions. Actually, she stopped my attorney from questioning Snyder on the issue of what happened to that money and did he have authority to do. He was nailing Scott Schneider, and she stopped him and said, hey, Scott Schneider's not on trial here. I agree, but he needs to be. Okay? And he will be one day before God, and so will I, and we'll answer for all these things.
Amen.
So the trial concluded November 1st, the defense deciding not to present a case. That is correct. That was my attorney's decision. I didn't like it, but I followed his advice, and that was a major mistake. Should not have done that. I definitely should have given a defense. Okay. Skipping down here, I don't think there's anything else to cover. Under the picture of Dinosaur Adventureland billboard, it says in 2007, the government placed liens on Hovind's 10 properties. Okay, I don't know if the WICKED-pedia folks are going to get this right or not, but those were not my properties. Those were church ministry properties. The judge ruled they're my properties without a trial, without a hearing, and over the objections of the church trustee, saying, excuse me, why don't you go see McDonald's or Hardee's or Burger King instead? They have more money. But they keep calling it Hovind's property, and it's not. That's what the whole issue is about. I've got 3 times circled here in the next 3 paragraphs where they call it Hovind's property. A couple paragraphs down, since 2007, incarceration, that last line, signing under his name, POW. Correct. I am a prisoner of war. Okay? I am not a criminal. Okay, next one, the USA v. Kent Hovind and Paul Hansen indictment. October 21st of 2014. Federal grand jury indicted, mail fraud, etc. And Hovind and Hansen pled not guilty and were tried together. I don't know about the plea thing, but it was way before October 21st when they indicted me, and it took 6 or 7 months to bring it to trial. The speedy trial, of course, there's all kinds of exceptions they can get around that. Then in March 2005, the U.S. Court, Northern District of Florida, skip down about 10 lines, it says, according to Robinson, during Hovind's testimony, he refused to give short answers. Oh, boy, that I am guilty. Rudy, you were there.
That's right. The whole truth.
They make me swear to tell the whole truth, but then they don't want me to tell the whole truth.
That's right.
Don't make me swear to tell the whole truth, then. Do you want the whole truth or not? I think that movie, the guy had it exactly right. You can't handle the truth.
That's right.
That's the last thing they want is I want the whole truth to come out about this case. I want the whole truth to come out about what the government did, what the IRS did, what the judge did. I have nothing to fear from the truth. Nothing that I know of. Tell me what I did wrong. Taking charge. Anyway, it'll go back to trial in a couple of weeks, and we'll see again. And they're going to make me swear to tell the whole truth, and then they're going to do all these legal tricks to make me not tell the whole truth. Just watch for it. I'm not a prophet or the son of a prophet, but I predict they will do everything, all the legal maneuvers, to stop me from telling the whole truth. Anyway, that's enough on the WICKED-pedia article. I've got a start of the timeline. If people want to know the whole truth, we can do that some other time. But I think that's enough for now. Any other Bible questions or comments, brother?
I need to get them organized, and just let me quickly say that I find it absolutely fascinating, sir, that they could put this many lies, and I think the term WICKED-pedia is absolutely appropriate. Not only all of the lies that you just covered, which I appreciate you taking the time and going through that, but also just finding a picture of your mugshot without you smiling. I mean, they even put the cherry on top of the cake. We can't even find a picture of you smiling. It's just absolutely insane. And so we're going to, not only myself, I will do everything within my power to make sure this gets exposed for all the lies in this WICKED-pedia article, but hundreds, if not thousands, of others I hope to enlist that will, begin to promote this and to write these folks letters and to do whatever we can in all of our power to try to get this thing corrected, if not just completely torn down with all the lies and deceptions that are in it. So thank you for your time to go through it, and I'll shut this recording down, and thank you so much, sir.